Hi everyone, so today I thought I would share with you something I learned recently that makes sourdough, for me anyway, a lot easier. So sourdough is easy, there's not a lot of hands-on stuff, but there's a lot of time where you need to kind of make sure you're there and whatnot. Anyway, I learned recently that you can make sourdough in your bread machine. And for me, I love making bread in my bread machine. And so making sourdough in my bread machine was like, wow, that's what I'm going to try. And so I've been working at it and I've had several successful loaves. So I thought today I will share with you how I make my my sourdough in my bread machine. And hopefully it'll work again today. If it doesn't, I guess I'll make another video. But we're going to try it and I'll show you what I do to make it. And I'll show you how I've tweaked the recipe a little bit and I hope it works. Alright, so for your sourdough, you're going to need obviously your sourdough starter and make sure it's active. This one I fed late last night, so hopefully it's pretty good. You're going to need your scale, and this is going to be important for your measuring. You're going to need your sugar, your flour, and some salt and some oil, or I'm going to use butter. I used butter on one of them because I just didn't have any oil upstairs and I didn't want to run downstairs to my storeroom to get oil, and it worked great. And you're obviously going to need a bread machine. So get your bread machine pan and put your pan on your scale. As far as recipes, I would use you're going to want to find a recipe that uses the same amount of flour as your bread machine uses. So I'm modifying one from a cookbook. You can use whatever you want. I'll show you what I'm measuring here. But this one works for my bread machine. And so you need to make sure, and my bread machine makes 3 different size loaves, and so it was easy to modify. If yours only makes one size loaf, you're going to want to just note that and use about that same amount of flour. The other thing you're going to want to make sure you do is you add the ingredients the way the bread machine would have you add it, not the way you would normally do your bread. So sourdough, you usually start with the wet ingredients and mix those together. My bread machine, I start with the dry ingredients. That's how the bread machine works. So we're going to start and we're going to measure out our flour, and I'm going to use kind of a combination of flours, but all kind of a white flour. So I haven't tried it with wheat flour because it takes a lot longer to raise, and I didn't want to do that on this one because I want to make sure it works. But you could, try something different and whatever. So I'm going to need 500 grams of flour. So which is about 4 1/2 cups of flour, something like that. 4 1/4. Anyway, my largest loaf uses like 4 7/16 cups flour, and so that works pretty good. Alright, so there's my flour. And then I'm going to add my sugar. It's just a tablespoon of sugar, or let's see, 12 grams of sugar. And I have not tried honey. I want to try honey, I just didn't want to do it today. Again, I want to make sure this works. So there's my sugar. Salt, you're going to need 9 grams, which is about 1.5 teaspoons. And you can tear in between each one of these things if you don't want to add. Alright, and that is my dry ingredients. Now I'm going to add my butter. The butter's a little bit harder because it's not melted, but I need 15 grams of oil or butter or whatever. So I'm just going to start small little pieces and just almost. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now I add my warm water, and it's 300 grams of water, and I actually don't use warm water because my bread machine will heat all the ingredients up to the same temperature. So just whatever tap water you have. I say tap water just like whatever temperature is coming out of your tap. So what did I say? 300 grams. Can I do it? All right. Perfect. And then the last thing is the starter. Now, this is where I have really altered the recipe. I discard half my starter, and the recipe called for about 65 to 75 grams, depending on the recipe. But I usually discard about 115, 120. So I just put all of my starter in here. I don't want to throw away any because that's kind of a waste. So I make sure I have at least 65 to 75, but it's usually more like 100 to 120. We'll call that good. So there's my 120. And then don't forget to refeed your starter. So I'll set that aside. Now, let me wash my hands really quick. Whoops, that was a little bit over. And then I'll be back. Okay, I'm gonna have to hold this. I apologize, it's probably going to be wiggly. Don't look at the inside of my machine. There we go. So there's the bread dough. The yeast usually goes here in my machine, but obviously we're not using that. So I just wanted to be able to show you. So mine has a lot of different settings. This is the regular setting, 4 hours for just a regular loaf of bread. But the sourdough needs a little bit more time. So I'm going to go to the whole wheat setting, which is the longest setting. It gives it 5 hours on my machine. 1 hour to warm, and then 4 hours to, mix and whatever. I'm not going to mess with the rest of the settings on there for this. And then I just push start. And off we go. Okay, so it says it's done. We'll check it out. Ooh, that's hot. Steam on the camera. I don't know if you can see it, but I'll show you in just a minute. But it worked great. I'll show you. I'll get it out in a sec. All right, so there it is, and it looks beautiful. Now, a normal loaf of bread in this bread machine pan would have been probably about this much taller, but because it's sourdough, it's not going to raise as high as a regular loaf of bread. And you don't score it, so you get whatever you get on the top. But anyway, let me pop this out if I can. And so we got the hole in the middle. That's fine, I don't care. And then we have our loaf. It's a nice loaf of bread. It's great for dinner or whatever. It's warm. Now it is sourdough, so you want to let it cool off. And if you want to, you could coat it with butter on the top. I like to just leave mine like that. But anyway, so sourdough in a bread machine. It is possible. It's really good. My kids love it, and I love it because it's easy. I can just set it and forget it and come back when it's done cooking and my house smells great. So I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope you try it at your house.